Change alone is unchanging, by Heracles Ephesus. Whosoever wishes to know about the world must learn about it in its particular details. Knowledge is not intelligence. In searching for the truth, be ready for the unexpected. Change alone is unchanging. The same road goes both up and down. The beginning of a circle is also its end. Not I, but the world says it all is one. And yet everything comes in season.
Good morning. I'm Molly Keogh, and I'll be your worship associate today. This is my 10th year with Unitarian Universalists of Central Delaware. It's my privilege to serve as the co-chair of the worship committee and as a member of the Social and Environmental Justice Committee. Please accept my words of welcome. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you've been, whatever you've done, however you move in the world, how much or little you have in your bank account, whatever your religious beliefs are or aren't. Know that you and all of you are welcome in this spiritual community.
May the light we now kindle inspire us to use our powers to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, Spirit of freedom. Please join me in our unison affirmation. The words are in the chat box. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is all. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Buddy, it's time to start. Today's the day. I'm gonna be like Buddy, 'cause I know there's nothing I can't do. Today's the day. I'm gonna be like Buddy, 'cause today I'm gonna try something new.
Huh? Being angry and safe? Yay!
Buddy, it's time to go.
Darn! No!
Whoa. I can see that you're angry. Your eyebrows are scrunched up. Your mouth is closed tight. Your breathing is really fast. And you're about to do something against the rules. Buddy, feeling angry is okay when things go wrong. But we have to stay safe, follow the rules to make things better. So this is how we're going to do it. First, take 3 slow breaths. Good job, buddy. Next, open your hands. Now you've earned your second star. Now keep your hands safe on the table or at your legs.
Okay.
Thank you for keeping your hands safe. You did such a great job. You earned another star. Now there's only one more thing we need to do. Now you can say this out loud or show me that pet card. I am calm and I need help.
I am calm and I need help.
You did it! And now you can get the help you need. I'm so proud of you, buddy. That castle was really hard to make, but you got the help you needed by staying safe. Take 3 slow breaths. Open your hands. Keep your hands safe on the table or at your legs. Say, I'm calm and I need help. Okay, it's time to go, King Buddy.
Thank you.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time
It is now our time for joys and concerns, when we offer one another the opportunity to share very briefly what is most in our hearts right now, life's celebrations and concerns. As you do so, we invite you to light a candle in your own space. Through the action of sharing and kindling a flame, we give energy to our best thoughts, meditations, sympathies, celebrations, and prayers. We hold these as sacred in our collective hearts. At this time, we invite you to change your view in gallery view to gallery view in the upper right-hand corner of your screen so that you can see everyone who's here. As you feel led, please unmute your microphone and share your joy or concern and light your candle if you have one. You can watch the mute signals on the lower left of each person's video stream to see if anyone else is unmuted. It's best if we share one at a time. Please mute your mic after you've shared. We light one final candle for the joys and concerns that were not spoken by those of us here, and in solidarity with others in our community who could not be with us today.
This is the time of our offering, and that's a central part of our worship, in person and online. It's the opportunity we all have to practice the art of generosity and the spiritual practice of gratitude. Our gifts to UUCD are what allow this congregation to thrive with a common vision to nurture our spirits, build community, and change the world. We are grateful to you for the many ways you support our community, including your financial pledges and offerings. Your gifts matter, and it's one of the ways that you make this world a better place. Every part of the ministry of UUCD, from the worship that grounds us in our values to the community gatherings that connect us, to our children's education, to our social justice outreach and actions, are supported by your gifts. Thank you for your passion and your generosity. For those who are making pledges or would want to contribute to this community, you may continue to write checks and mail them to us, or you can give online. There are instructions to do both of these things on our website at uucd.org. Just click support UUCD in the menu bar. You can do this now or during the offering song or any time that is convenient.
Spirit of love, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in land, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Our centering today starts with the words of Howard Thurman. So I invite you to find yourself a comfortable spot. Notice your body, notice the relaxation, your legs and your arms, your feet, your head, your hands. Take one moment just to be. Thurman says, we join our hearts and minds together in a time of meditation or prayer, spoken, silent, sung, and shared. It's a precious time, and all precious times want preparation. So therefore, the invitation to settle yourself and take a deep breath. Hold it until you notice you need to breathe out and relax. Close your eyes if you wish, for vision is the most single energy that is intensive, brings activity to our brains. In the quietness of this place, surrounded by all pervading presence of the holy, my heart whispers, keep fresh before me the moments of my high resolve, that in good times or in tempests, I may not forget that to which my life is committed. Keep fresh before me the moments of high resolve.
This is called Morning Poem by Mary Oliver. Every morning the world is created under orange sticks of sun. The heaped ashes of the night turn into leaves again and fasten themselves to high branches, and the ponds appear like black cloth and painted islands of summer lilies. If it is your nature to be happy, you will swim away along the soft trails for hours, your imagination alighting everywhere. And if your spirit carries within it the thorn that is heavier than lead, if it's all you can do to keep trudging, there is still somewhere deep within you a beast shouting that the earth is exactly what it wanted. Each pond with its blazing lilies is a prayer heard and answered lavishly every morning. Whether or not you've ever dared to be happy, whether or not you've ever dared to pray.
Now is the time for our reflection. And Michael Bolero is doing the reflection today. As you may have noticed, Michael is not on the screen. Prior to our service today, we did everything we know how to do to solve that problem. So we have a situation where we're going to have Michael Bolero, but not his face. And we just hope this works. So I'm going to put, he's on my phone. He is ready to deliver the reflection. And I'm going to put my, I'm going to stop my video and put my phone up to, so that you can listen to Michael's reflection. Are you there, Michael? Okay, go ahead.
Today's reflection is on changing habits. My original concept for the service was to ask, what might we do to find if we find ourselves stuck in a rut? I meant this in a behavioral sense. What happens when we recognize we keep repeating the same pattern over and over again and no longer expect a new result? My intent was to borrow some understanding of this phenomenon from the behavioral science research and report on what we know about personal behavioral change. When I recognized that to be in a rut is a poorly understood and not at all technical term, But I'm really concerned here with our habits, how we cultivate new ones, how we might change old ones. I suspect this topic might be useful following a time associated with our annual ritual of self-reflection known as New Year's. For those who recognize the holiday, this is typically a time of year when we assess or otherwise evaluate our accomplishments or defeats from the previous year and cast hope regarding what we might expect of the new year. In the process of reevaluation, something we are otherwise loath to do unless it's structurally mandated, we might naturally discover aspects of ourselves we either admire or are dissatisfied with, to the point we may wish to change. These aspects of ourselves are our habits of mind, activities we have somehow trained or conditioned ourselves to perpetuate. When I speak of habits, I'm not implying judgments here. Naturally, there are habits that are considered bad and are frequently associated with negative outcomes. But there are also healthy habits we believe are associated with beneficial outcomes. We could engage in discussion about which habits are bad and which habits are healthy. This really misses the point I'm trying to make here. It's not about judgment, as it is about a desire to change. The fact is, judgmental labels have at times been interchangeable, depending on the era or the cultural context. For example, running is today considered a worthy habit that exercises the body, builds strength and endurance, and helps to regulate the metabolism, among other things. But there was a time when vigorous exercise was thought to be uncouth or even dangerous for young girls, especially those of childbearing age. When we speak of these gendered expectations, there was also a time when only men were permitted the luxury of smoking, while the practice was considered uncouth when performed by women. Of course, these mores changed radically when the tobacco industry discovered they could remain profitable by tapping into a new market. Suddenly, tobacco use became sophisticated, alluring, and a symbol of women's power. A shift in fashion enlarged the practice until we all woke up one day and discovered that smoking causes cancer. It now says so, right in the box. Within this dynamic of cultural flux, there may appear habits that we no longer wish to perpetuate. What inspires this change in attitude is not as interesting a question for me right now as the question of what can we do when we wish to change our habits? And here we stumble upon the first prerequisite for change of any sort, but in particular, the change of a behavioral habit. The number one prerequisite required for behavioral change is that the practitioner must be aware of the habit and must desire change of some sort. Note that I emphasize the practitioner, not necessarily the practitioner's friends or relatives. Friends and relatives may have an opinion regarding your behavior, but as a rule of thumb, they should generally refrain from attempting to change others. There are several crafty ways to influence others, surely, but the only guarantee of behavioral change rests upon the individual's sincere desire for personal change. It's an old adage about we can't change others, the only power we have is to change ourselves. The behavioral scientists Prochaska and Clemente present a model for behavioral change where there are fully 3 separate steps before one even starts to take any action toward change. The first step is pre-contemplation, where one may not even yet recognize that change is necessary. The second step is actual contemplation, which is characterized by an awareness of the problem and a desire to change. Yet a third stage is called preparation, and this is where actual planning occurs before implementation. If one were to consider quitting smoking, for example, this third stage is where you might have a conversation with your doctor in regards to any medicinal aids that could be of service, pills, patches, gums, what have you. You would also acquire these items as part of your planning in preparation for actual action, which is what we call the fourth stage in the cycle of change. After you commence action, you eventually enter into a stage called maintenance. The point of this stage is self-explanatory. But we're not done yet. Remember that this model of change is thought to be a spiral that cycles around, moving either up or down. How does the cycle move down, you may ask? It moves downward when we relapse and we momentarily lose sight of the desired behavioral goal. In everyday parlance, we might refer to relapse as that moment when we fall off the wagon. Sure enough, many of the people I work with regard relapse as failure in all capital letters. I often speak of feeling really bad for returning to the old habit, and they frequently frame the perceived failure as confirmation that they are messed up or broken people, incapable of change. Our society is often quite willing to confirm these opinions. In relapse, one may feel so miserable that at this point, one might give up altogether and stop trying. Why bother if you can only see yourself as a loser? But please note, the stage we refer to as relapse is in fact just another step in our journey to recovery, just another step in the spiral. We have much to learn about our habits of the mind when we relapse. They're not failures necessarily, but learning opportunities. Habits are not by their nature activities we are always fully conscious of perpetuating. When we first start adopting a new habit, the new behavior must be associated with some perceived reward, or the behavior would never catch on in the first place. When one first takes up smoking, to offer the common example, the behavior must inspire the practitioner in some way to promote a return to behavior. These inspirations can be cultivated or evolve over time, but they must always be present. If they were not present, then the behavior is not habitualized and change would be as easy as snapping your fingers. Not only must habits be rewarded when adopted, but any change in the habit rests upon the discovery of a substitute reward, at least equal or greater in value than the original reward. If new behavior is not rewarded, it's not likely to be sustained. The old habit will keep calling until we finally answer the door. When we answer the door, we are mightily tempted to return to the old habit because it had in the past successfully met our needs. If it had not, it would not have turned into a habit in the first place. When we are feeling bad about ourselves due to a relapse, we are not being rewarded. No one likes feeling bad, but our society appears addicted to the stigmatization of those who adopt bad habits. A former drug user who confronts societal shaming for their past behavior is not encouraged in recovery when they think of themselves as messed up, damaged, or otherwise irredeemable. Some imagine feelings of shame are either appropriate or useful in the case of drug addiction, especially if you yourself have been harmed by someone's addiction. But for those struggling in recovery, shame is neither appropriate nor useful. To do this work correctly, successfully, we must believe we are all redeemable. We probably cannot force behavioral change through punishment, as much as this notion appears to run counter to our cultural lionization of punishment. Those who believe they can alter behavior through punishment are probably a little confused about the goals. For the end result of punishment are often feelings of resentment, anger, regret, or fear. Behavior may indeed change, but will be all for the wrong reasons. The net result is likely not a healthy one, for it typically damages a person's self-esteem. Again, successful behavioral change is associated with good self-esteem. Increased self-esteem is generated by positive regard. Note that this notion that human beings flourish within positive regard is very much in keeping with the first, second, and third of our UU7 principles. Positive regard is the backbone of the first principle, which speaks about the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Inherent worth and dignity. The second principle speaks about justice, equity, and compassion in all human relations. Compassion is the underscored tone here. And the third principle, it asks us to accept one another. I am awe of those people who insist that when they quit smoking, they're going to go cold turkey. While this is obviously possible, it also appears dangerous as we may increase our risk of failure. When I asked why this particular person preferred cold turkey over a gradual reduction, she told me it was because she thinks it works. What makes you so sure this is how it works? I asked. She replied, because I've done it before. As we engage in personal behavioral change, it's a worthwhile practice to ensure continued positive reinforcement by celebrating every small step along the way. We are not engaged in a race, so no gold ribbons are available to those who manage behavioral change quickly. We're only concerned that we maintain a positive trajectory of change, upwards in the cycle, at a pace of our own design. Every step forward brings us closer to our goal, no matter how small. Unrealistic goals only set us up for possible failure. Failure runs counter to positive reinforcement. Celebrating incremental steps toward our goal is a good way to maintain our commitment to the behavioral change. For this reason, I don't recommend that people even bother with an end date when they will, for example, quit smoking, until they have cut their current consumption in half. At the probable midpoint, it's easier to gauge when you might be able to quit completely, a realistic goal. As we continue to maintain our new habits, we must continually practice mindful awareness of what compels us to return to the old habits. Don't judge yourself, just examine it. We must ask, what compels me to need this now? We must come to understand for ourselves what makes the old habit so rewarding. Until we recognize this and replace it with a better reward, the old habit still maintains a hold. When I watch people commit to changing their lives, there is nothing more rewarding than witnessing them achieve their goals. They report feeling much more powerful when they recognize that change is indeed possible and express some pride that they have succeeded. Note, they master these changes by their own initiative, as the therapist is not really much more than a guide or a cheerleader here. At the end of the day, it is the people they work with who are doing all the work. So, to reiterate, behavioral change can be supported under the following conditions. First, personal recognition that change is necessary and desired. Second, a willingness to examine our impulse to avoid change in our own habits and to propose rewards to support new behavior. Third, positive reinforcement for every increment of change till we reach our intended goals. Contrary to popular belief, we cannot punish ourselves into behavioral change. Behavioral change is often reduced to the concept of mind over matter. I suspect we are ill-served by this concept. It isn't sheer willpower that makes change possible, but a recognition that our will bends toward justice and positive regard. It's not about power over our mind, but our mind's ability to promote power from within. Successful change is a matter of mindful awareness of our habits and the reward system that helps to perpetuate them. When we are appropriately rewarded, we recover the capacity to change anything we wish about ourselves. This in turn causes us to feel hopeful and in better control of our lives. It is important to recognize we have this power over our behaviors. Otherwise, we might erroneously assume that it's our behaviors that control us. This concludes my reflection for today. Thank you for putting up with the technical issues.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Our closing words for today by Sarah Moores Campbell. We receive fragments of holiness, glimpses of eternity, brief moments of insight. Let us gather them up for the precious gifts that they are, and renewed by their grace, move boldly into the unknown. Our virtual worship has ended, but our connection to one another in the earth endures. Go blessed to be a blessing for others.